Welcome back. The House passing a continuing resolution yesterday that, if approved by the Senate, which is likely, would avert a government shutdown. 336 lawmakers voted for the bill. 96 voted against the two-step proposal. This two-step proposal would fund part of government until January 19th and then the rest until February 2nd. House Speaker Mike Johnson needing Democrat support to pass his first big victory, as more than 90 Republicans voted against the bill. Johnson released a statement saying this: the bill will take Washington's preferred Christmas omnibus monstrosity off the table, shift the government funding paradigm, and enhance Republicans' ability to rein in the Biden administration's failed policies. Joining me right now is Wisconsin Congressman Bryan Steil. He's the chairman of the House Administration Committee and a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, and you voted for this bill?
I joined the majority of Republicans in voting for this bill. We don't win when we shut the government down. What that does is gives leverage to Democrats to simply jack up spending and, in particular, pass a monstrosity going into the night before Christmas, as is done time and time again. This gives us the time to actually address the reckless spending in Washington and put forward our priorities. Number one, secure the U.S.-Mexico border.
So let's talk about where the priority goes next. First off, are you expecting this to pass the Senate? Do you expect this to be signed into law before Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I expect it to be passing the Senate today or tomorrow, to be signed into law, to give us that period of time to make sure that we can actually address the reckless spending in Washington. The biggest win here for the American people is that on Christmas Eve, they're not going to see Washington, D.C. pass trillions of dollars of spendings with every ornament on that spending tree that you could ever imagine. So it buys us time to address the reckless spending. I do believe it'll pass the Senate.
So let's talk about the next priorities, and that is aid for Israel. Ukraine aid, the U.S.-Mexico border policy changes. You've also got other things, domestic emergency supplemental. You've got the farm bill. Where's the priority now?
I think we have to make sure that we're looking at securing the U.S.-Mexico border. We just got numbers that, again, last month, we're seeing record high crossings of illegal immigrants. It's impacting big cities, but it's also impacting smaller communities across the country. I was just in Whitewater, Wisconsin, where our local law enforcement is dealing with challenging issues. It doesn't make the headlines because it's not New York City, but this migrant crisis is impacting cities all across the United States of America, and it's imperative that we secure the border and we force the Biden administration to deal with this problem.
Yeah, well, you're right. Are they going to deal with it, though? Some of your colleagues were reluctant to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. So what are we to expect in terms of any change at the border if he's still in charge?
Well, we know that this administration has a series of priorities, and what we need to do is to leverage that to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. This administration wants to move forward on funding for Ukraine. I think it's important that we do support Israel, in particular, in their war against the terrorists with Hamas. But this is our opportunity to put forward and pressure the administration to come to the table to address the border security issue. I think we have a lot on the table to do that. Is why passing the CR and not shutting down the federal government going into the holiday season is imperative. It gives us the window to force this administration to come to the table. And you're exactly right. Secretary Mayorkas has done a disastrous job. I think he shouldn't be in his job. And I'd love to see us move forward with that investigation and possible impeachment in the House.
Well, let me move on to the war on Israel and this anti-Semitism. The Treasury Department announced more sanctions on Hamas officials and members of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad yesterday. They've been taking in money from Iran. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said that they are decisively moving to degrade Hamas's financial infrastructure. There's now been at least 56 attacks on U.S. bases in the Middle East since October 17th, Congressman. What can you do about that?
Well, I think it's important to know, Maria, that simply putting the sanctions in place is only step one. Enforcing the sanctions is the most important piece of the puzzle. And what we continue to see with this administration is them turning a blind eye towards critical enforcement of sanctions. In particular, this administration has continued to allow Iran to sell illicit oil to countries like China and Syria and take those funds. And we know Iran is using those funds to support terrorism around the globe. Iran is the #1 leading state sponsor of terrorism. We know those funds are traveling into places like Hamas and Hezbollah, who are wreaking havoc and attacking our ally Israel. It's imperative that we don't only have the sanctions, but that we are enforcing the sanctions. And that's the work that we're doing as Republicans in the House of Representatives, trying to call out this administration and force them to enforce the sanctions that we have.
Well, I mean, look, what are your thoughts on what the president is going to do regarding the border? Because that's also a Hamas issue, a China issue. Customs and Border Patrol released October border stats. You just mentioned it. It was nearly 241,000 migrants encountered just in the month of October. I mean, 30 days, that's nearly 10,000. That's up 10,000 compared to the October numbers in 31 days of October. Agents encountered more than 4,200 Chinese nationals last month. 430 Chinese migrants were encountered in October of 2022. We've gone from 430 a year ago to 4,261. And again, this is just a month long. Border Patrol arrested 13 individuals on the terrorist watch list as well last month. Border Patrol only encountered 12 suspected terrorists in the entire 3 years of former President Trump's term. And now you've got 13 of them encountered just in the month of October. Congressman, do you think that these numbers are waking anybody up at the White House? What do you make of 4,000 Chinese nationals crossing into America in October alone? I keep asking the question, don't you need approval from the CCP in order to pick up and leave and go to America and settle there? Is Xi Jinping directing these folks to come and settle in America and wait for further direction?
This administration has made it clear to the entire world that the U.S.-Mexico border is not secure. When the President Biden came to office and began to change the policies of President Trump, he moved us in the wrong direction. But most importantly, he put out the word to everyone in every country that the U.S.-Mexico border is not secure. And what we saw was a dramatic influx of individuals coming across the U.S.-Mexico border. You correctly point out that this is not just a problem of individuals coming from Mexico. This is a problem of individuals coming from all across the globe, from communist China to areas in the Middle East. We have individuals on the terror watch list coming across. And these are the individuals that we know. We're only looking at the numbers of the individuals that we have caught. We're not even tracking in great detail the number that are, quote, got away. Those are the individuals that don't want to be caught in the first place. So if you think of an individual on the terror watch list, it's pretty likely to think that they're in the category of the got away. So the problem is probably significantly worse than the numbers even suggest. It's the reason, as we look out to these funding priorities that the administration has, that Republicans leverage that to demand our priorities, which is securing the U.S.-Mexico border. It's imperative from a national security standpoint. It's also imperative from a human trafficking and drug standpoint. And as I said earlier, this isn't a problem that's simply faced in our nation's largest cities. San Francisco, Chicago, New York. This is impacting small communities and small cities all across the United States of America. I see it firsthand in Southeast Wisconsin, as many of my colleagues do across the country. It's the reason that we have to get serious about securing the border.
This is just stunning. The whole story is stunning, Congressman. We're watching your work on that. Thank you so much, Bryan Steil.